The Brazilian Football League system is a series of interconnected leagues for football clubs in Brazil. It consists of several independent pyramids, which are the national pyramid and the state pyramids. As those pyramids are independent, clubs usually compete in both pyramids in the same year. Both the national pyramid and the state pyramids consist of several different levels. The best-placed teams in the state championships as well as the best-ranked clubs in CBF's ranking compete in the Copa do Brasil. Structure: there are two simultaneous and independent pyramids in the Brazilian football, the national pyramid, and the state pyramid. While the national competitions are organized by CBF, the state championships are organized by the respective football federations of each state. The national pyramid competition starts in May and ends in December. The state pyramid has different duration and schedule in each state, but in states with clubs competing on the national first and second divisions, the main state championships run from January-February to April-May. Most states have at least one secondary tournament involving smaller clubs not in the top two leagues of the national championship. This lesser championship runs from July to December. Besides the trophy, it may award the winner, places in the main tournament or in the Brazilian Cup next year. Smaller states, whose clubs do not take part in national competitions have longer competitions, usually running during the winter months, April to October. National championships: in the national pyramid, there are four leagues: the ZAR Copyright Rai A, ZAR Copyright Rai B, the ZAR Copyright Rai C and the ZAR Copyright Rai D. The ZAR Copyright Rai A, ZAR Copyright Rai B and ZAR Copyright Rai C currently consist of 20 teams each, while the ZAR Copyright Rai D is contested by 40 teams. ZAR Copyright Rai A and ZAR Copyright Rai B are contested in a double round-robin format by all clubs. ZAR Copyright Rai C and ZAR Copyright Rai D have regional groups. Before 2009 there was no ZAR Copyright Rai D and the ZAR Copyright Rai C had 64 teams in regionalized groups. Each year, the four worst-placed clubs in the ZAR Copyright Rai A are relegated to the ZAR Copyright Rai B and the four top-placed clubs in the ZAR Copyright Rai B are promoted to ZAR Copyright Rai A. This relation of 4 promoted and 4 relegated is the same for the other levels. The clubs competing in the ZAR Copyright Rai D are the best-placed state championship clubs of the same season which are not competing in the ZAR Copyright Rai A, B or C. Clubs that are successful in their state leagues can rise higher in the pyramid, being promoted to the ZAR Copyright Rai D, and eventually to higher levels. Some state federations organize special competitions with the purpose of qualifying teams to the ZAR Copyright Rai D. As a result of the rules detailed above, it is possible for a minor state championship club to rise to the ZAR Copyright Rai A, and become successful in the competition. To achieve this, a club must qualify in the state championship and, later, qualify in ZAR Copyright Rais D, C and B. Examples of clubs that went all the way up from the least state league until ZAR Copyright Rai A are, Paraná Clube, ZAR Pound o Catano, Brazilians, Grêmio Barueri and Ipatinga. None of them are in 2015 ZAR Copyright Rai A, but Paraná and ZAR Pound o Catano had a relative success in ZAR Copyright Rai A for a while. Brazilians and Ipatinga, however, never played a second year in this competition, being quickly relegated to ZAR Copyright Rai B. Grêmio Barueri, for its part, only lasted in the first level for 2 years, before being relegated. The latter 3 teams eventually disputed the ZAR Copyright Rai D in 2014, failing on achieving promotion. The reverse is also possible: a club from ZAR Copyright Rai A can be eventually relegated to the very least state league. A recent example is the rich in history Arma Copyright Rica MG. Arma Copyright Rica played in the ZAR Copyright Rai C in 2008 and 2009, avoiding the ZAR Copyright Rai D. The club is back to national competitions and to state first division, reaching ZAR Copyright Rai A in 2011, although already relegated to ZAR Copyright Rai B in 2012. Currently, at least 7 clubs have been relegated to ZAR Copyright Rai C and successfully reappeared in ZAR Copyright Rai A. Other clubs formerly in ZAR Copyright Rai A, that were relegated to ZAR Copyright Rai C, D and to no division have not so far recovered their strength. For example, Santa Cruz, Arma copyright Rica J, Remo, Juventude, Fortaleza, Guarani and Paysandu. State championships. In the state pyramid, which consists of several independent state championships, the participating clubs, which also include ZAR copyright RAI and ZAR copyright RAI-B clubs, are limited to their own states. The leagues are usually divided in 2, 3 or 4 levels. The number of clubs per level, as well as the number of levels, are different in each state. For example, in São Paulo there are 20 clubs in the first level, but in Rio de Janeiro there are 16, and in Rondônia there are just 8 clubs. Also, the number of promoted and relegated clubs are different from one state to the other. State championships may include obscure formats or experiment with proposed innovations and rules. As the ZAR copyright RAI and ZAR copyright RAI-B clubs usually have to be seeded to avoid fixture congestion, some rules adopted may be quite unfair. In Rio de Janeiro State Championship in 2008, the Big Four always played home against the other participating clubs. State Cups. The state cups are usually played during the second half of the year, after the state championships have concluded. The participating teams are clubs not competing in the national championships and reserve teams of clubs competing in the national championships. Examples of such competitions are the Copa FGF, the Copa Paulista de Futebol and the Copa Rio. Copa do Brasil. The Copa do Brasil is contested between the winners and best-placed clubs of the previous season state championships, and by the best-placed clubs in the CBF ranking. From 2013, it is played between the months of April and November. Current system: 1. The state championships are not officially hierarchically behind the ZAR copyright RAI-D, but they are used by CBF as a way to promote clubs to the competition. The state championships are the lowest level for professional clubs. There are amateur competitions too, organized by the federation of each city. However, they are closed, and can't make it to the state main division without the approval of the board. Current teams and Campeonato Brasileiro. Teams by state. In 2015 the following states will have teams in Series A, B and C. The teams from each state participating in the 2015 Campeonato Brasileiro Series A, B and C are listed below. Participation in Serie D varies every year. Serie A, Serie B, Serie C. State League Pyramid examples. The Campeonato Paulista table below is an example of a state league pyramid. It is divided in 4 levels. The first 3 levels are disputed by 20 teams each, while the 4th level can be disputed by any clubs not in the first 3 levels. As of 2015, 30 teams will take place on the state's 4th level. The competitions are organized by the São Paulo Football Federation. The Campeonato Catarinense table below is another example of a state league pyramid. It is divided in 3 levels. The first 2 levels are disputed by 10 teams each. As of 2014 the 3rd level is disputed by only 7 clubs. The competitions are organized by the Santa Catarina Football Federation. The Campeonato Mineiro table below is another example of a state league pyramid. It is divided in 3 levels. The first and second levels are played by 12 teams each. As of 2014, the 3rd level has 11 participants. The competitions are organized by the Minas Gerais Football Federation. References. External links: Brazilian football competitions at RSSSF, Brazilian football.